how much do you dread what's coming in the next several months for your businesses?
Well, I mean, you think you're coming back, and then all of a sudden you realize you're not. And, you know, it's slowing down every day right now. And then you hire all these employees back for 19 stores that are opening in New Jersey and 22 stores that are opening in Manhattan. And then you bring all these employees back, start training them, getting ready to open this week, and now all of a sudden you're not opening again. And you know what's so sad about this is our employees aren't yo-yos, okay? We can't just say, okay, get off unemployment, come back to work, and then we send them home again. And that's where we are right now, is that at some point we've got to take a position and tell restaurants you've got to socially distance. You can only be at 50%, and if you don't follow those rules, we're going to shut you down. We know how to social distance in our restaurants, and almost every restaurant I go into, I see the same thing. But at some point, and you have to wear your mask, except when you're eating. But we can't keep treating employees and the general public out there and businesses and landlords and us where we don't know where we're headed. Sure. It is a mess right now.
You know, and I want to ask you about, well, I'll begin there. You know, the governor, Andrew Cuomo, our guest last hour, all made references to these air filters that you can use to really help purify the air, recycle it, you know, get more ventilation going. How realistic is it for you, and how costly would it be to install these state-of-the-art air filters in all of your restaurants so that you could at least say, look, this air is as clean as can possibly be?
Yeah, we will do whatever it takes, okay? When you still look at what a restaurant can do, your busy restaurants in a day, those are small dollars. But you've got to remember, in like Manhattan, we're in somebody else's building, and we're usually in skyscrapers, and we're not in control of the air filters there. So we'll do whatever we have to do in a freestanding building, but they need to do what they need to do in their buildings. And I'm sure it would be a huge cost when you start talking about commercial mechanical HVAC systems.
Oh, yeah. And so you mentioned some of these kind of back and forths about reopening. And I think what's going on in Atlantic City is, I don't know if comical is the right word. I mean, so you had mentioned there was no guidance.
No, that's a good word, Kelly.
Okay, let me
a good word.
Let me read to people what is going on. Explain the story here. So you had said, look, we've got no guidance on reopening Atlantic City. Then Governor Murphy came out with a date, said you can go ahead. But the following guidance was issued on Tuesday for this reopening: that no smoking, no drinking, no restaurants. Water can be served, but you can only sip as needed and keep the mask on at all times. So obviously we understand the goal here, but is this realistic, or should they just keep these places shut until there can be a more feasible getting back to business?
Well, we're opening up Friday, so I'll be able to let you know next week. But now remember, you can only have that sip of water if it's a health and safety issue. So you have to be going comatose and almost passing out before you can take a sip of that water. You can't just have a sip of water just to have it. It has to be a health and safety reason to have a sip of that water. So you're telling me this isn't a mess and it's not comical right now?
Yeah, no, it's, again, I get the goal for sure. Wear the mask, avoid the things that interfere with the wearing of the mask. But at some point you just wonder if this whole thing should be delayed. Let me ask you, Tillman, about a totally separate issue, because we're going to come back to all of this. But you had some big news this week about iGaming, internet gaming. You're going to spin that out from the Golden Nugget. It's going to be its new company, kind of a complicated structure. But here's my question. A lot of the Golden Nugget investors don't want to lose exposure. They think that's a really good, fast-growing asset. Why do the spin out?
Well, we did the spin out when I did that $300 million loan a few months ago. So it had already been spun out, and we were just operating, and that's what we borrowed the $300 million on. So what happened next is there was this opportunity with the SPAC that we already had, and Jeffries is our banker and said, hey, why don't we take this public? There's this great wave right now because of the pandemic, and also because how successful your New Jersey iGaming market is. And because they represent us, they also know that we had just signed up Michigan and Pennsylvania, and the growth is unbelievable for iGaming. And it's a great company, and it already makes 25, 30 million a year in EBITDA, and that's before we go into Michigan and Pennsylvania. So it's a company we're truly excited about. Obviously, all the shareholders are very happy because it's traded up 50%, and the runway is unbelievable for it. It's much better runway than the rest of our business right now, I can tell you that.
Yeah, so one more question on that front. I mean, how's your capital position overall? You have so many different assets. All of them, ironically, have to do with people being gathered closely together. So what options are you exploring at this point? Does it, what happens if this is dragging on into the turn of the year now?
Well, I keep all of my companies in different silos, but the restaurants and the casinos are in one silo together. And even the casinos that had picked up slowed down last week. And you got to remember, we're in the states where the people are. And my three biggest states are Texas, then California, then Florida. And no, the restaurant business is not good right now. And it is an issue. It's a serious issue because landlords are tired of not getting paid, which you see some sympathy toward them. And this is where, if this is going to continue, up to this point, the government has done a good job of putting money in people's hands. But at some point now, the United States government is going to have to step up and give all landlords forbearance to their loans, and they're going to have to give us forbearance not to make our rental payments. Because we can't operate so many restaurants at negative 60, 70, 80% and make rental payments for the ones that we do not own. So at some point, the rubber's got to meet the road here, and somebody's got to do something if they're going to shut us down.